In today's episode, we will look at a brutal fight Lenny had in his 20s against a hard as nails docker from Liverpool, which ended in the most brutal way possible.
And I tore his head off in about 30 seconds. And then as he went over, I gave him a center while he was unconscious. Just to let him know, don't try and get a reputation on the strength of me.
During his early to mid-20s, Lenny was a nightmare on the drink. His naturally aggressive demeanour was multiplied when boozed up, and he would bully and beat anyone for the slightest of perceived wrongdoings. According to Lenny McLean, in a book, he would also be abusive to his wife when drunk, which saw her take the kids from the home to a woman's refuge on several occasions until he had sobered up. The death of his father at 28 and the abuse he suffered from his evil stepdad, Jim Irwin, had left him scarred, and after the death of his mum in her early 40s, Lenny went off the rails for a significant period. His reputation as a hard man had spread far afield in Hoxton, and he had begun minding several pubs, and this added to a sense of invincibility and was frightening when he was inebriated with drink. It is widely thought that Lenny was unbeaten on the cobbles, although Mickey Gluckstead, the East End Hardman, claims he got the better of Lenny in the Greenman pub on one occasion. I covered this in a video some time ago. It's on the playlist. Since that time, another fight has come to light from a source who claims Lenny met his match one night in the East End against a scouse docker who dwarfed Lenny in size. The docker was allegedly close with Scouse Norman, a friend of the Craze and notorious player in the London's underworld. On this occasion, it seems the docker, who we'll call Tommy, had been drinking all day and night with a friend of Billy Grimwood, a legendary Hardman from Liverpool, and a few other faces. Grimwood was serving a 7-year sentence and wasn't at this knees up in London. Lenny McLean had also been drinking all day. He was not in good spirits. His val was unhappy with Lenny's drinking and womanising. He had put his friend in hospital after a drunken brawl, and work had dried up, so he was drowning his sorrows. According to my source, 3 Scousers were drinking and having a laugh in a pub near to the Blind Beggar. I believe it was just behind the Blind Beggar. Lenny had popped in on the way home on his own to pick some money up and have a last drink. One of the Scousers, a huge man, over 20 stone, big built with a bushy beard, a docker by trade but moonlit as a heavy and a deck collector, was being quite loud, and Lenny, having a drink at the bar, took umbrage at the harsh Scouse accent and the loud swearing. In a flash, after several words were exchanged, Lenny had flew over and gone head to head with the big docker. The docker, not intimidated, offered Lenny a straight go, and before he had gotten the words out, Lenny McLean had headbutted him square on the nose and started unloading a flurry of punches. The big docker took the explosive assault without dropping and wrapped his big arms around McLean and began systematically headbutting him, causing McLean a big lump and gash across his head, and then threw him into tables and chairs. Moving quickly for a giant man, he began laying the boot into McLean and trying to stomp on his head as onlookers in the bar retreated to safety and gave space to the men to fight it out. Lenny managed to catch the leg of the kicking and stomping big Scouser and pulled him to the ground as they gripped each other like 2 giant bisons. It was at this stage the fight took a brutal turn, as Lenny, getting a grip of the big docker, Tommy, locked his powerful jaws around his bushy cheek and began tearing the flesh from his face and unbelievably swallowing it as he went. The man was screaming in agony as Lenny was literally eating his face. The landlord and a few other drinkers dragged Lenny off, and allegedly one of the other Scousers pulled out a gun and threatened to shoot Lenny, who staggered out of the pub. The man, I'm told, suffered horrific injuries and needed skin grafts. This fight is never featured in McLean's books, but in his daughter's book, she does reference Lenny being ill after swallowing flesh after biting a man's face around the same period. So I believe that probably referenced this fight. Lenny failed to mention many incidents in his book, and it was a masterfully crafted biography to show him in his best light. The truth is, Lenny was involved in many violent incidents in his 20s where he was the aggressor and many were out of order. He did give up drinking not long after, and Kelly in her book says life became more bearable as a sober Lenny was a much better dad and husband, not in the devil's vice of drink. Now, I've got to say, this story can't be taken as 100% factual, as I wasn't there firsthand. But the person who told me about it, his dad was proper certified and was around that time and was a respected face in London, Liverpool, and across the country. So I believe it to be true. He told his son about this. He was there at the time in the pub. In fact, there are many other stories about Lenny in the earlier years and later years in sticky situations where he didn't always come out on top easily. But there is no doubt that his reputation as the hardest man in London on the cobbles was well earned, and he was a very dangerous man in a fight. Those who follow Lenny McLean will know he lost against Johnny Wall, I think it was his cousin. He lost against Paddock, I think, Kevin Paddock. So there's quite a few he lost against in the ring. And I think the more professional boxers, they would take his initial onslaught, his ferocious onslaught, and then, because they had better boxing skills. And we're not talking top level boxers here. We're talking sort of journeyman boxers who turned over into the unlicensed game when they finished in the program. But they had the skill sets to take the initial onslaught and then wear Lenny down. Lenny didn't have the best stamina in the world, especially in the ring. You got to remember this situation that happened, which was the early to mid 70s, around that time. Billy Grimwood, who Albert Redding talks about as being I think Albert Redding called him Billy Griffiths. He was mistaken. It's Billy Grimwood as the hardest man in the prison system and the hardest man he'd ever met, which is quite a compliment coming from Albert Redding, a renowned hard man, robber and villain from East London. And he was in jail at the time. He'd been in London. He'd actually been coming back from London. Billy Grimwood, I did a video on this. In Liverpool, he did a fight with some London gangsters, Mickey Green and a few others, Bertie Smalls, over the gambling joints in Liverpool, where the London gangsters felt that they'd ripped their idea off and they wanted in on it. And there was a fight, and the Londoners went down, and Billy Grimwood and Chang, a guy called Chang, I think it's Michael Chang, and another guy were in there, and the Londoners put it on them, went to Liverpool, put it on them, and said, look, you got to give us a cut of what you earn. And they were told to do one by the Scousers, and it kicked off. One of the Londoners butted Chang. Chang battered him, and Billy Grimwood ironed out the other two. And when I say ironed out, I mean just beat them up and sent them packing. And there was a lot of threats going on. And Billy Grimwood had gone to Liverpool to meet Scouse Norman, who was well respected in Liverpool and London. He was living in London, to sort it out. But they never met up with them. But they were tooled up, and they got caught by police, and he got a 7 for it. Grimwood did, got caught with a gun. So he wasn't there on this occasion, but I believe that one of the men was close friends of Billy Grimwood, who was there as well when this fight took place. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and we've got more stories to come. I've been working on a book, which is why I've been a bit scatty. I've got a few health issues that I'm sorting out, so I've not been uploading as regular, but I am going to start uploading a few of the chapters of the book that I'm writing, which is sort of untold tales from the underworld, and give you guys an exclusive on that before it comes out on Kindle and in bookstores and all that kind of thing. All right, that's great. Take care. Please remember to hit the likes and the subscribe if you can. It'd be much appreciated. Thank you.